Well, the natural thing is when you're getting into like that kind of, square or, rectangular band marching formation into the circle, there's a couple of different approaches. The natural optimum kind of sound cone off the drum is going to be coming off of the drum heads, right? So if you think of this practice pad as the drum, you've got the head on either side. There's going to be less of a sound coming right off the shell. That's just the nature of the beast. I tend to kind of march in like crab walk style, which I ripped off of Big Jim Stewart back in the Toronto and District days. Huge fan, by the way. And he used to kind of do this kind of sideways crab walk thing. To me, it made a lot of sense because, well, number one, he kind of wore the drum up fairly high, as I tend to do. So literally, it's kind of difficult to see over the drum and walk straight in because you don't want to walk across the back of the piper, directly in front of you or something. So you can kind of see where you're going a bit better. But also it made a lot of sense sonically because, well, typically where's the drumming judge going to be? He's going to be standing behind the core back here, so he's going to get optimum sound coming off the drum. And usually where the ensemble judge is standing, he's going to be able to hear it too. Oftentimes up in front of the band, or he's usually going to be in a spot where that tone is going to carry through. Those are the guys you really kind of want to impress. I would kind of come in sideways. Once we get into the circle, I'm already in the position where I'm going to be at, which I think is kind of ultimately where we want to go with this little topic is where do you stand in the circle? Again, typically you're basically in the center of the circle. You might adjust a little bit depending upon the size of the band, and very important, having that eye contact between the lead drummer, who more often than not nowadays is usually standing in the center of the snare line, and your pipe major. It's very important to have that visual communication. And what I would do is, I'd constantly be kind of going back and forth and watching the lead drummer's hands, watching the pipe major's fingers more than anything, and just by natural kind of periphery, his foot. If you're familiar enough with the music, which was always my intent, you really shouldn't be watching anyone for the breaks. It's kind of one of those things you should just be able to feel it and know when it's happening if you're well rehearsed and well practiced. But it can't hurt to watch the pipe major, the lead drummer, depending for whatever breaks may be coming up. But optimally sound-wise, that's where you're going to want to be. Now, whether you naturally lead with your right or left hand, that's going to be kind of oftentimes comes down to whether you're right or left-handed. Khalil, who plays with Halifax, I think leads with his left hand. I think he's a lefty. I'm actually left-handed, but I do most things right-handed. So it's more comfortable for me to march in with my left-hand side facing the front rank of pipers, and then I just come in sideways and stop. I lead with my right hand, so the lead drummer is always able to see my dominant hand, which more times than not is going to be hitting the one. That's the one that's going to be hitting all the big breaks. Again, from that snare drumming background, I do try and play a lot of things hand to hand. It's good to be equally strong on both sides, but I think everyone is naturally going to have what I call a lead hand. So whether you're facing this way as a bass drummer, or whether you're facing this way with your left hand facing the snare line, none of that really makes a lick of difference, but I think it's most important sound-wise to have that, the front, or the two sides of the drum head facing the back of the band, facing the front. Some people do kind of angle a little bit throughout the course of the performance based on if they can keep track of where the ensemble judge is walking. But again, I get back to just nature of the beast. Unfortunately, with the drum, you're going to have those like slightly more dead spots directly in front of the shell. Keeping that in mind, this is where positioning the tenors can play a big impact, because, for example, if you know that the two dead spots of the bass drum are directly in front and behind, in other words, where the shell is, you might want to experiment with maybe positioning a couple of the larger tenor drums, the 18 inches, the 20 inches, the 22-inch drums on the end to fatten up and kind of help take away that dead zone of that bottom end a little bit. Just saying. It's one of those things you can experiment with, you know? If you march in sideways, practice that, because it's very easy to trip yourself up.